I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus, I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus, I was evil. I never should, baby.
Yeah, here we are, man. So,
and here we are. Oh, it's you. Oh,
yeah, back from Texas.
You come to fuck me.
No. No.
Those are lad and the kindness of strangers.
I love it when you talk dirty in an accent.
When I slip into my Blanche Dubois impression, which is also kind of just it's me doing an impression of Louis C.K. doing an impression of Blanche Dubois. That's what it is.
So what's going on, man? It's been a couple weeks.
You tell me, Joe. What's going on? You came back from good old San Antone, the land of your ancestors.
Yeah.
How was your birthday?
Cinco de Mayo? You mean the Mexican people's birthday?
Do you think that when I tell you happy birthday, when I tweet happy birthday to you on Cinco de Mayo, and people respond happy birthday, Joe? Yeah. Do they get the joke or no?
I don't think so, because a couple of people did respond with, "Hey, happy birthday, Joe," and I was like, "Thank you."
I think they think it's your birthday. Instead, it's just me being racist.
Well, this is the second time you've done this.
It's gonna happen every year for the rest of your life.
Oh, it wasn't. It's not just for Cinco de Mayo. It was last summer because my birthday is in September, but it was last July or something. We had a little get together. My family did. We had a little get together at my house, and Chomper was somebody else's birthday, and Chomper was trying to eat the cake. He was trying to jump on the table, and so I took a picture of Chomper trying to go for the cake, and I posted that as, "Oh, look at him trying to eat cake or whatever." And then people were like, "Dude, it's your birthday! I didn't know." And then you said "Hey, happy birthday, Joe!" And I'm like, "All right, fine."
Wait, when's your actual birthday?
It's in September 8th.
September 8th, huh?
Yeah, it's funny because it actually says that in my Twitter bio. So when people are like, "Hey, Joe, it's Cinco de Mayo,"
I'll just take his word for it. I'm not gonna click on his bio. What is I'm engaged, so that means I'm into astrology now. So what's your sign?
Virgo.
More like Vaggo.
Dude, whoa. You just came up with that?
I don't know anything really about signs except for mine and my fiance's, but you have to guess what mine is.
Fucking Sagittarius.
See, you did it too. Sagittarius is actually good though. No, I'm a Cancer.
Oh yeah, I know. You're Cancer on this podcast.
Yeah, that's why I think that's why I never got into astrology. Because when I found out mine was Cancer, I was like, oh, that's like the least sexy. And it is pretty spot on, and it is definitely what I am. Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely not one I thought of sharing on dates and stuff.
Yeah. So would you just make up a sign then whenever they asked?
No, I didn't know. I would just say mine's not that good.
That's what you'd say.
Yeah, and
cool, man. Good display of confidence.
Suavely change the subject. But I bet you have a great one. I'm kidding. I never really brought it up because but now I'm embracing it. I'm shouting from the mountaintops.
Marriage has ruined you, and you're not even married yet.
This is true. How was good old San Antone?
It's fun, man. I probably gained 19 pounds just from all the barbecue and steak.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Did you get fingered there?
Yeah, that's what San Antonio is known for, actually.
I can't even say that with a straight face. But whenever you travel, whenever you go somewhere, it's that's you have fingered. They're known for Central Texas barbecue and getting fingered.
Yeah, it says hey, welcome to Fingertown.
I think that's the number one city that when it comes up, my parents say, "Oh, Ben, you'd love it there." Yeah,
you would actually. It's really cool.
Well, we'll see. I love that it's the Jerry Seinfeld. My parents are like, "Oh, you love him." It's I don't like anyone. Why would I like him? But no, it does sound like a cool city.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I heard though the Alamo is kind of small. It's a Starbucks is right next to it or something. It's not.
I mean, it's right in the middle of the downtown area, and it is pretty small. It's not like this huge grand thing. You go like, oh, it's just like a little like stone thing, and it's pretty cool. It's just right there. But it's being protected by the Texas Rangers, who you do not want to fuck around with.
Texas Rangers are very, they're very interesting. There's a book I want to read about them. I can't remember, but a podcast I listen to, one of their co-hosts is from Texas. He loves talking about Texas, and he loves talking about the Texas Rangers because they're different than any other kind of police force in America, right? Because Texas is weird and they love being fucking annoying about it. But you know. Yeah, they're kind of like their own oprichniki in the Russian Empire. Just got their own secret police. You could call them the brown shirts, I guess. Like they're kind of.
I'm going to pretend to know what all of those things mean.
Oh,
so.
The oprichniki were like these. They literally actually include them in my dystopian book. I brought them back, but they were honestly something out of like a Dickens novel. They were in the Russian Empire, like pre-communist revolution. They were like a secret police that rode black horses, dressed in black, and just like terrorized people. They were horrible.
Yeah.
So like they're Texas Rangers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, San Antonio, sounds cool. I think Austin will probably come first, but
Austin's really cool too.
Yeah.
And we should do an episode.
Hey Joe, when you went there, did you California their Texas?
Yeah, yeah, man. I brought all my vegan recipes. And I brought all my picket signs.
It's like we're queer now.
we were talking because I have a lot of family there, and somebody said something like, "Oh yeah, like it's weird. It wasn't until like the last couple of years that like we started seeing like more like vegan restaurants, which is always kind of weird." And I was like, "Yeah, well now you know to thank for that." But,
yeah, that's true. It's like, I wonder what the correlation is.
Yeah. But yeah, it was cool. I recommend Texas. And Austin's only like an hour and a half away from San Antonio too, so it's something you can do in one trip too.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe we'll meet there sometime, do a podcast. It's kind of like halfway.
Oh,
sort of. Not really. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
All right, so we got 3. That's enough talking about your personal life.
Yeah.
We got
enough talking about history.
History. No, we're going to talk about some history, fake history with Black Cleopatra. I think we should start with that because we already brought it up 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, let's do an update on it.
Yeah, you were fired last episode, so I did one with Anthony Calkins, who also lives in Texas, Austin. This article is funny. I love it. I love this kind of shit. It's an intersectional pretzel.
Yeah.
Because do you want to read it or do you want me to? I don't care.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm reading the exact same article that I sent you because I just pulled it real quick. This is from NBC News / Variety.
Yeah, this is Variety.
Variety. Yeah. Okay. Looks like NBC just
Nick Vivarelli. Is that who it's by?
It doesn't say, but it looks like it's just been resyndicated by NBC News. A government-owned Egyptian broadcaster has responded to the casting of a black actress to play Cleopatra in the Netflix docudrama series African Queens, which streams from May 10th, by announcing production of its own big-budget Cleopatra doc. The fact that Britain's Adele James, who is of mixed heritage, plays the first-century Egyptian ruler as a queen with African roots in the Netflix original produced by Jada Pinkett Smith has been sparking an uproar in Egypt. Ever since the trailer dropped last month, local academics and others are claiming that Cleopatra, who was born in the Egyptian city of Alexandria in 69 BC and belonged to a Greek-speaking dynasty, was of European descent and not black. So yeah, they're
yeah. So that's the first part of it is, I think sometimes we forget, like in America, we're spoiled because we have so much culture. Like we have so much pop culture, so much modern culture, in terms of movie stars and musicians and all and actors and like all these different types of people. And we have some like very important historical figures, but a lot of other countries like don't have that, and they have more of the historical. So like Egypt, besides like Omar Sharif, who else would you say is like huge from Egypt and like that you could just like name off the top of your head?
Brendan Fraser.
Yes, Brendan Fraser. Right. But like also, you're probably gonna start naming like pharaohs from thousands of years ago.
Right.
I know I might be missing someone, but
King Tut. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. King Tut, Ramses, these sort of people. Was Moses technically Egyptian?
Well, I know he was adopted by them, right? So, but I don't know if he was actually from Egypt.
I think he was, and nationality. But anyway,
maybe Google the adoption agency.
Yeah, the river, the Nile River, evading crocodiles. But anyway, so like obviously people, you know, I think understandably take the representations of their most kind of beloved figures very seriously.
Yeah,
and we went over 2 episodes ago how kind of ridiculous this is and just like very typical. Like, and I can see both sides of it in terms of like from the artistic side, which we always defend, it's totally fine to make Cleopatra black. Like you want to make, you can make everyone black and it can be a black representation movie of this. But like, that's not really what this is. Right. This is African Queens. This is about like, I think this isn't supposed to be, you know, the black version of Death of a Salesman or something. Right. This is supposed to be like about these queens, and Cleopatra was not black. Just like was simply not black. Yeah. We don't know exactly what she was. I don't know if she was like was it Liz Taylor who played her? Yeah. But she was probably some sort of mixed Greek, Phoenician, Middle Eastern, like I don't know, but she was not black African. Right. And so I'm going to skip to the end here and then get to the middle. The fact that this director is coping with this and saying, perhaps it's not just I've directed a series that portrays Cleopatra as black, but that I've asked Egyptians to see themselves as Africans, and they are furious at me for that. That is so fucking dumb. Like it's so absurdly dumb, and just like shows one, you don't know anything about Africa. Right. Like Africa is so diverse. And just because you look at a skin color, like there's like Bantu peoples, there's Arabs, Berbers, there's Swahili speaking people, you know, the people in like the Botswana, South Africa region are different. Elon Musk, Elon, yes, Elon, those are, he's very different. Like you have people on the kind of like West Africa that are gonna like this, I think it's like Sino-Siholitic or whatever. Like I'm not a scholar on Africa, but like all these peoples are very different, and they have different types of skin colors and different other features. And if you've ever seen Hotel Rwanda, they've even killed each other over these features. And to then say that Egyptians, who are overwhelmingly Arab for an ethnicity, or like need to see themselves as Africans, it's like that can go both ways. Yeah. You know, and it's so, and the fact that they keep quoting her, because I know we quoted her last time on this, is like, it's really absurd.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's just like the fact, like a Hollywood director is asking a country that's like, can you guys just like take on a different ethnicity? Can you just like do that, please, for this TV series, please? And
not just a country, but one of the most like culturally rich and historically rich countries on the planet. Like I would put Egypt up there with China, Italy, like probably Los Angeles, those 3. No, LA is as far, but like LA shouldn't, it should be firebombed after we evacuate the people we like.
I agree to disagree,
and then resurfaced, and we can grow something new there. I'm kidding. LA's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's what she's doing is like basically colonizing, like culturally colonizing.
It is. Like, it is.
She's imposing like, you know, her like
Pan-Africanism. It's like this pan Black Africanism. It's like that's so stupid.
But it cracks me up that so now Egypt is coming up.
They're doing their own and I want to get to that. The last thing I want to say about her is like, as an artist, she could have, like, I could be defending her right now if she was like, this is an artistic decision. I understand the historical inaccuracy, because like it is historically inaccurate. It's not we don't really know, like we don't really know exactly what Jesus looked like or whatever. It's like, no, we know what Cleopatra looked like. She was a monarch. She was someone who was like in her time was artistically portrayed. We know the dynasty she came from and what ethnicity they were. These were people that that were derived from Alexander the Great. Like this isn't, and even Jesus, like we have ideas of what he was.
Right.
But like, so she could have said like, this is artistic. This is my vision. And still like paying homage to Egypt, but like she didn't do that at all. Put her foot in her mouth.
She even said in the thing like, this is, you know, like what a political act it would be to portray Cleopatra as black or something.
Really fucking dumb. She could have, you know, why? And I'm gonna get, I am gonna get to Egypt, and like I'm glad, I like when cultures stick up for themselves.
Yeah.
And whether that's a bunch of like white British people colonizing them artistically, or whether it's like black British people, like the British, something with the British have always colonized people. And I really like that. So they're just like rolling over and say, because like that's not what a lot of like white Protestant countries do. Right. I mean, I love Denzel Washington. The latest Macbeth, like, I'm sorry, the King of Scotland wasn't black. Like he just wasn't, but it was artistic decision. That's fine. I think that's cool. Denzel is the fucking man, like all-time actor. But and Macbeth also, well, he was historical, but he wasn't like to Scotland what Cleopatra is to Egypt. Right. That being said, the Egyptian response, well, I like it in theory. They are going too far by trying to literally cancel the show. Which we also don't like. Like I'm against that. They're trying to get it like literally canceled, right? Like banning it.
Yeah. They're like the whatever network is in Egypt. Like they were trying to, you know, prevent them from showing it in Egypt there.
Yeah.
Which I'm definitely against that, but at the same time, it is sort of like, well, that's what fucking happens when you go around, you know, spreading your bullshit on countries.
I don't think it should be banned. Do you know what I love actually? You know how in like movies now, like what's Breakfast at Tiffany's, right? Has what's that called? Like that disclaimer in the beginning, like some sort of sensitivity disclaimer.
Oh, right, the Mickey Rooney thing.
Yeah, like they didn't cut it, which is good.
Yeah,
like that's super offensive. Like that's hard to watch.
Yeah, that was really bad. Yeah,
that's really bad. And even at the time, not everyone, but a lot of people were like, yeah, I don't know. Like this might be too much. I give them credit for not cutting it, but they put that like sensitivity disclaimer in the front. I hope they do that for this movie. Or at least in Egypt, where it's like, this is an inaccurate depiction. This is like a political act and like her artistic decision. But Cleopatra was like, I would love to something like that. So it'd be like them getting a taste of their own medicine.
Seriously, it would be hilarious if it was like it was an official statement from the government that said, do not take this series seriously in any way. It does not represent our people, and it should be ignored. We're not blocking it, but we should. But ideally, change the channel.
Yes, that'd be really, really funny. However, again, also because now the roles are kind of reversed here. Do you give the director credit for not pulling it? Because this was
the director of the series.
Yeah. Like if this was like a white American liberal or someone, or like who had the snafu, most likely they would have canceled it themselves.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of give her credit for not doing it. At least she's sticking to her guns.
That's true. But here's the thing: I'm going to remember what she's doing here, because I bet you she seems like the type that if anybody else had done any other filmmaker in Hollywood had done what she had done, she'll probably call them out and probably be like, you know, this movie should not be released because it doesn't, you know,
harm.
Yeah, it's causing harm. It's not your story to tell. It's like, I have a feeling she's probably, if she hasn't done that already, she seems like the type that would do that. I'm like, hey, so I'm gonna remember something and be like, hey, we stuck up for you for standing up to the mob, and this is pure speculation on my part, but she seems like the type who would happily tell another director, don't make this because it's not your story to tell.
100%. So you know what that means, Joe? I think we need to write the white Queen of Sheba and cast Emma Stone as the Queen of Sheba. I think that would be hysterical.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, make her like Lebanese.
Fucking support us, because you know.
Yeah, like why can't she make like there are Black African queens? Yeah, like and actually it would probably be super interesting if you like that. Like they have definitely been neglected by because like tons of historians are white, and like old white British guys who probably ignored a lot of these. Like,
Yeah.
go do like, at least you're doing a service there. Go dig up a cool story about a black queen that like really got overlooked and make a movie about it. Like, that would be interesting.
Yeah, Africa is such a huge fucking continent. It's like there's got to be other. I'm pretty sure there are other prominent women, important
like,
women,
honestly,
other than Cleopatra. Like,
yes, and I know this is about queens, but like in terms of arguably, it's hard to equate wealth over time because what wealth meant changed. Like there was wealth in gold, there's wealth in resources, wealth in humans. Like, but arguably, the richest person to ever live was a black Islamic king named Mansa Musa in Mali. He was so rich that when he traveled across the Sahara, he would just throw gold around and it like caused hyperinflation around like the whole Sahara. He was that fucking rich. Yeah. And like no one has made a movie about him.
Yeah.
That would be a really interesting movie.
Right.
And like, so why don't you make that instead of just like making another like German king black or something? like you're offending everyone. You're offending like black people by ignoring stories of like actual black like historical figures, and the white people who like grew up with these characters or like they're historical or whatever it is, and just like changing it. And it's like, well, I can't like that's dumb.
Yeah. I mean, you know, like so much of social justice is just revenge. So I'm sure it's just like, well, Elizabeth Taylor, we got to get back at her. So we're going to go like in the exact opposite direction.
Yeah, it's like Elizabeth Taylor doesn't give a fuck. Is she even still alive? Like,
is she alive? I'm sure she's too rich to care.
Yeah, like she doesn't care. Like Elizabeth Taylor doesn't care. Did I say Liz Taylor? Elizabeth Taylor.
Well, I mean, she was that was like her she was also commonly on this list.
Did she? Okay, okay. I do want to see that movie. Apparently, like, didn't it like almost bankrupt?
Yeah, because it had a huge budget, even for by today's standards, pretty big. I think it was like $42 million in 1960s money.
That's like that's like $1 trillion.
I know, yeah. Well, I mean, when I see a movie with that budget now, it's like, okay, that's a pretty decent size. Like that came from a big studio. Like even if it's not a new Marvel movie, it's like that's $44 million. You got a few A-listers and you got a big director working on that. Like that's
like a small country now. It's like well, that's like a small country then. That's like the entire GDP of Slovenia.
Yeah. Oh.
To make a movie that was like okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know. Was it good or was it?
I heard like in terms of like the technical aspects, it was pretty good. Like the lavish sets and the costume, but it was a very long movie, and it was just sort of like
it looks beautiful. Like from what I've seen.
Yeah.
Speaking of old movies, this is very old. I'm finishing. This is totally off topic, but I'm finishing Metropolis.
Oh yeah, how was that?
Dude, it is gorgeous. Like it's silent, of course. Like a silent movie now. It's like it can be tough to watch a silent movie, honestly. Yeah. The last one I watched I also watched strictly because it's known for being absolutely like beautiful, and that's The Passion of Saint Joan of Arc, or Passion of Saint Joan, which is like a very just strikingly beautiful movie. Yeah. But Metropolis is like I love Art Deco. Yeah, and I love that style. It's like claustrophobic, and the message is really cool. And it's because they don't speak or you don't hear them speak.
Yeah.
Everything else is exaggerated. It's like their eyes are super dark, and the faces are like very like almost like shining bright, and it's melodramatic, and it's really really cool.
I've only seen a few scenes from that, but like a lot of the special effects look really fucking cool. Like I'm just like,
amazing.
How did they do that? Like,
dude,
just,
this movie came out in 1927.
Yeah,
and it holds up.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Like I'm really enjoying it.
Okay,
highly recommend it because
I know that main robot chick was partially the inspiration for C-3PO's design.
I totally see that. Yep. Yeah. I could totally see that. Yeah, but it's a very very beautiful movie, and just like my style of movie for something like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, is there anything else about Black Cleopatra?
No. But I'm glad that it's like on the one hand, I can kind of see like the Egyptian broadcaster making their own version.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can see that being.
Sorry, it's a Pinot Grigio in my mouth. That was very funny.
Yeah, so Egypt, they're making their own version, more historically accurate version with a light-skinned actress playing Cleopatra. On the one hand, I can see this as being like kind of petty, but at the same time, it is sort of like,
I like that's what. But isn't that what we always say?
Yeah.
This is why I like this story so much, because it hits a lot of different points. On different sides. You have like the colonial aspect of it, but from the left, like from the progressive left, I should say, the identitarian left. Right. And then you have like an intersectional pretzel, because these are Egyptians who are like mostly Muslim and brown people. So, but then you have like a black woman telling them to be, like basically ignore your culture and you should be part of this. You have, also from the Egyptian side, you have the cancel culture part of it, which is like, well, then we're just going to take it down because we don't like it. That's bad too. That's anti-art. But then also on the Egyptian side of it, you have the, well, we're going to make our own art, which we always say, like, that's good. Like, you should be able to make your own art also, and you should compete in the marketplace of entertainment. So that's why, like, this isn't just like a petty, like, laugh at the libs sort of like intersectional pretzel thing. Like, no, this is like a really kind of interesting microcosm of a lot of the shit we've been talking about for 2 years.
Hold on, I just want to.
Wow, we're coming up on 2 years.
Yeah,
longest 2 years of my life.
Long 2 years. Just want to read this thing real quick. In response to what they claim is Netflix's falsification of Egypt's history, the Al Wathakaya channel, which is a subsidiary.
It's pronounced Allah Akbar channel.
Oh, yeah. My mistake. Which is a subsidiary of Egypt's state-affiliated United Media Services, has announced start of production on a high-end doc about the true story of Queen Cleopatra, which it claims in a statement is based on the utmost levels of research and accuracy. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, the government entity in charge of heritage, has complained on Twitter that statues of Queen Cleopatra confirm that she had Hellenistic Greek features, distinguished by light skin, a drawn-out nose, and thin lips. I'm curious.
Yeah, when they start talking about like nose lengths and lip size, I get a little. I'm like, all right, let's. She doesn't say she was like Greek.
It starts getting a little too close to like old shape.
Yeah, they start getting out like that. What's that tool that's like the?
I know what you're talking about.
Abacus. It's not abacus, obviously, but you know what I mean.
Those really big tweezers, and they're like, "Oh, I can tell that you've got the lower membranes over this and that." So,
yeah. All right. Well, let's slow down, little guys.
Yeah.
But anyway, and oh, by the way, see, I'm allowed to say all of this because as I showed you my 23andMe today, I'm 2.2% Egyptian.
Oh.
So actually, I'm allowed to be a critic. Oh. Thank God to my Crusader ancestors.
Yeah. Well, our
God wills it. God wills it.
Became a little more diverse. So
that's right. Oh, that should that segues us into our next topic of diversity, equity, inclusion, a constant topic on this podcast. Now, Joe, you sent me this article.
Yeah.
I read it about 10 minutes before we started recording. I'm going to tell you something.
Yeah.
While I agree with Richard Dreyfuss's sentiment, I really do.
Yeah.
He doesn't do himself any favors here.
Yeah.
Examples. Do you want to read this one or do you want?
Yeah. So
this is the Hollywood Reporter. Go ahead.
Yeah. So he was in PBS's firing line with Margaret Hoover, in which the actor discussed civics education in the United States, partisan discourse, and the Academy's Diversity Inclusion Initiative. And we've talked about it. I think it's called Aperture 25, where it's like your movie will not be considered for to be nominated unless
it's facially stupid.
Yeah, it's unbelievably stupid. You got to have this many people of color, this many people who are disabled. It's just crazy shit. And then so he said that that these initiatives make him vomit. And he's talking about the art of acting. It's an art. No one should be telling me as an artist that I have to give in to the latest, most current idea of what morality is. What are we risking? What are we really risking? Hurting people's feelings. You can't legislate that. You have to live. You have to let life be life. I'm sorry. I don't think there's a minority or a majority in the country that has to be catered to like that. And so all that stuff I'm like totally on board with.
Totally agree with them. And so we've talked about this a couple times. It becomes like box checking. It's like automatically some movies, like for instance, The Northman then would just not have been considered, right?
Right.
Because it didn't have any people of color.
Yeah.
It was about fucking Vikings invading like Russia and maybe England. I can't remember exactly. The lead is a big, hunky, sexy white man. Yeah. There's a white woman in it. Like, I wouldn't say she's like even a co-lead. The story's about violence and like, I guess, kind of rape and slavery of white people. So that doesn't get any play. So like, and it was a very good movie. Like, Northman was not just like a fun action movie. Like, it was kind of an anthology of Viking culture. So that would just automatically be like it would automatically be it would not be considered at all, solely based on identity. And I just have an aversion to that. Like, like knee jerk, like that's so fucking dumb. Now I was looking at this, and is this rule though only for Best Picture, or is it any Oscars?
I'm not sure.
To be considered. So it says here, and beginning in 2024, films will have to meet minimum requirements to be considered for the Best Picture category.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's also, I feel like it's more than that though. That alone is stupid.
Yeah. It's still
very
still
stupid. But all of this is very dumb. But I will look into more of that, because I'm sure we're going to be talking about it again. I do want to make a little side note here. This is written by someone named Carly Thomas. Carly, Joe, tell me if this is normal. So we're talking about Richard Dreyfuss here, right? And they refer to him as the Jaws actor. They refer to him as the Goodbye Girl actor. They refer to him as the American Graffiti actor. They refer to him as the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like, why are they doing? Is that normal? Like, why would you keep doing that?
My guess is that it's for SEO. It's like just to like capitalize on any other movie that is. So it's like, you know, the articles about Richard Dreyfuss. Let's try to cram in as many references to his movies as possible, so that will show up in more search.
So if someone is just Googling Close Encounters of the Third Kind, well, it's very frustrating to read. These
SEO endeavors can definitely go too far.
I mean, you do this for a living, so so anyway, so we agree with Dreyfuss's sentiment here.
Yes.
Now, that being said,
then
it almost feels like they tricked him. And how old is Richard Dreyfuss right now?
I think he's in his 70s or 80s.
He's got to be at least in his 70s. He's 75. Okay. Because then he says
he's talking about fellow, right?
The actor then proceeded to defend Laurence Olivier's performance in Othello, in which Olivier played the lead in blackface. Othello was in blackface. He said he played a black man brilliantly. Dreyfuss told Hoover, "Am I being told that I will never have a chance to play a black man?" Yes, Richard. It's like the one thing. It's like there's. To my lawyers out there, we all know this. There's the law, and then there's the exceptions to the law. Like in law school, there are the rules, and there's all the exceptions to the rules that your professors test you on. This is one of the exceptions to the rules: is white guys playing black guys. Like it's just not good. It's just not okay.
Well, here's the thing. If I think he picked the wrong example. If he'd mentioned like Tropic Thunder, where it's like, okay, that was done like in a satirical way. If he was like, if there was like a creative reason, but he just kind of went for like he just sounds like a cranky old man the way it's written out. Like, I want to play a black man someday.
I can't play a black guy. Like I want to play Kunta Kinte. Jesus Christ, Richard.
I can see where he's coming from, where it's like, on the one hand, like the more libertarian, like live and let live, just sort of like, play whatever fucking race you want. Right? But at the same time, it's like you could have massaged that a little.
You're right. So I want to. Yes. I love Tropic Thunder, and I don't mean it's like, oh, that couldn't get made today. Like, no, Tropic Thunder it wouldn't get made today, but it should get made today.
And I'm glad that Ben Stiller defended it like a few months ago.
Because it's making fun of blackface.
Yeah.
By doing black, like it's making fun of this type of Hollywood actor who thinks they can insert themselves in anything. Like I actually watched a whole video once. It's like why Ben Stiller really hates Hollywood. I don't know, but like it's kind of he does rip on it a lot.
Yeah.
And yes, like that. And it was funny. There's a whole thread about like Zoomers discovering Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
So you're right. A white guy can play blackface in or play black people in some very particular circumstances.
Right.
I think another one of those that actually should be allowed to do it is Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where they did take off those episodes on Hulu. And I think that's wrong. Because again, it's making fun of these people who are so dumb. They're so dense and narcissistic and self-centered that they don't understand that what they're doing is wrong. And that's what's funny about it. It's not genuine like Laurence Olivier in Othello, but that's not the kind of blackface that Richard Dreyfuss thinks he should be able to play. Like he thinks he should be able to play Malcolm X. Right.
And so it was like I see where he's coming from. Maybe he's old and senile, so maybe it's he didn't really kind of pick the best example.
It's like this. They set him up for it.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, he does go on more though.
The way he says it, I'm sorry, I just want to reread it. Yeah. Am I being told that I will never have a chance to play a black man? Dude, you're 75 and rich. Like, why do you want to do this?
Right.
Then someone else being told that if they're not Jewish, they shouldn't be allowed to play the Merchant of Venice. I think that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
That can be had. I do think there are very, very strict lines in the sand that even aren't that strict. Like we just said, like there are some exceptions, but like we've talked about this a bunch on the episode. I do think it's going to get to a point where it's like you're an actor from this village and you're playing someone from the same country, but someone from a different village. That's not proper representation. Like that's the route we're headed in. I think that's wrong. Yeah. But I like John Wayne shouldn't be playing Genghis Khan. Like there's certain like big chunks of races that should be separate. I hope no one extracts that as a clip, but I'm talking about acting here. But like there is a lot of overlap. Like a lot of times Latinos play Arabs. A good example I brought up is Rosewater. I think it's Gael Garcia Bernal plays an Iranian, and I know I think it's Antonio Banderas plays an Arab chronicler in is it The Bone Eaters? It's about it's a real story about an Arab back when it was like the Arabs and the Muslims were the ones who were really interested in science and history and stuff. He traveled with the Vikings and basically did like an anthology of the Vikings and their rituals and stuff. And it was Antonio Banderas, and like that probably wouldn't fly today. Yeah, this movie's I think from the 80s or 90s. But anyway,
Marlon Brando played Zapata.
Yeah. That's like nowadays you probably could just get a Latino, but that guy is Mexican, right? Zapata.
Yeah.
But like, can a Bolivian play him?
Right. Yeah.
Like, can a Chilean play him? Or like that? And I think it does. Like, it's getting to that point where the answer is no.
Yeah.
To a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not to me. I don't give a fuck. But to a lot of people. But anyway, he goes on.
It's like, are we crazy? Do we not know that that art is art? This is so patronizing. It's so thoughtless and treating people like children. So again, like there's like I agree with that, like that overall sentiment there. Hoover followed by asking the Close Encounters of the Third Kind actor if there's a difference between the question of representation and who is allowed to represent other groups. And the case of blackface explicitly in this country, given the history of slavery and the sensitivities around black racism. So he goes, there shouldn't be, because it's patronizing, because it says we're so fragile that we can't have our feelings hurt. We have to anticipate having our feelings hurt, our children's feelings being hurt. We don't know how to stand up and bop the bully in the face. So again, like probably not the best answer to the blackface thing, but I agree with the overall sentiment of like, well, you know, people's feelings are going to be hurt no matter what we do. So it's like that should not be really taken into consideration.
I would love to ask, like, I would love to see like a poll, like polling black people on like if you just saw blackface, right? Not like really what's going on, like just maybe like a picture. Like how offended are you by it? Like I honestly want to know, like, is the thing itself so offensive, or is it like, well, is it if it's a minstrel show, which I actually just read a book about, like that's based on a minstrel show, where it's actually a black kid who happened to be, unfortunately, like half white because his mom was raped by his slave master, ran away to Philadelphia, and he joined a minstrel troupe. And even in like very, very liberal Philadelphia at the time, what was liberal, black people were still not allowed on stage. So he actually pretended to be Mexican, and he was a great guitarist. And actually, like the minstrel show, it was. I'm assuming this was fiction. I'm assuming it was heavily researched. I like this writer. His name's Tom Piazza. The book is called A Free State, if anyone's interested. But I was reading really for like research for my own book that I'm eventually going to write about this kind of time period. And they were like the troupe was doing this as like totally not in a they thought racist way. Like they didn't set out to be like, we're going to do this music and the show to keep black people down, like at all. It was totally genuine. Now sensitivities obviously have changed. I'm not saying it's good, but the intent very much was not to rip on black people. Now I'm not saying that's good enough, but that was very interesting to me, because I think if you asked most Americans what were minstrel shows, I think they would assume it was like the ultimate version of punching down. And I don't like, at least in this book, and I've not done a lot of research on minstrel shows, at least in this book, it was just a very popular art form that was not very sensitive, but not intentionally meant to hurt black people.
It reminds me, there was a forgotten movie. There's a flop when it came out. It's by Cameron Crowe. He wrote and directed. It's called Aloha. It came out in 2015.
I saw that movie in theaters.
Oh, okay. Well, do you remember the controversy around that?
Emma Stone.
Yeah, the Hawaiian thing.
Yeah. I mean,
it reminds me of that. So I actually have a quote here from Crowe if he responding to that. So in the film, she plays a character who is stated to be 1/4 Chinese and 1/4 Hawaiian descent.
Oh, I forgot about the Chinese.
Yeah. So there's a controversy around that in 2015, and Cameron Crowe responded to that saying, "I have heard your words and your disappointment, and I offer you a heartfelt apology to all who felt this was an odd or misguided casting choice. As far back as 2017, Captain Allison Eng was written to be a super proud 1/4 Hawaiian who was frustrated that, by all outward appearances, she looked nothing like one. A half-Chinese father was meant to show the surprising mix of cultures often prevalent in Hawaii. Extremely proud of her unlikely heritage, she feels personally compared to over-explain every chance she gets. The character was based on a real-life red-headed local who did just that." So I haven't seen the movie, but was that in the movie where like that was kind of like a running part of the character where it's like,
okay, so I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember a lot of this movie. I do vividly remember though her saying like that she was Hawaiian and I guess Chinese, and me going, huh. Like I remember being like, oh, that's weird. And I am glad you read that, because I assumed this was one of the ultimate kind of like, not ultimate, but like a very Hollywood, well, we're going to say that this person is these races, but then just hire Emma Stone, because she's famous. I think it's probably a pretty bad casting, or just don't write the character that way. But like, if you want Emma Stone, just have a white part. Like, I don't think Emma Stone is part anything but any sort of white. That being said, this is based on a real person. I think she was blonde, and I don't think she was redhead, who, race is weird and tricky. And there are sometimes twins who are born who don't even look like the same race. Then, fair enough. At the time though, all I do remember from that movie, honestly, like the only thing I remember from that movie was this. And not all, I'm not even talking about the hubbub after. I'm talking about like me being in the theater going like, oh, huh. Okay. I didn't like, so I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. I was just like, weird. And then everything else from that movie, I don't remember any. I don't remember who else was in it. I don't remember any of the plot.
Yeah, I mean, well, I can see it being justified creatively if it was like that was like a running gag where it's like she is ethnic but she doesn't look ethnic, so it's like okay, like, I can see that being, you know, kind of, but like if that just didn't come through in the actual film, then I can see people being like, why did you cast Emma Stone to play a half Chinese, half Hawaiian? So there's that old comedy from the 70s with Steve Martin called The Jerk. Have you seen that?
Yeah, when he's like, I was born a poor black child.
Yeah. Where it's like that's a running joke. He thinks he's black, but even though he's super white. But we're something like that. We're like, it's meant to be a gag. It's meant to be like, look how ridiculous this is.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be sincere.
Oh yeah,
and I don't remember anything about that movie.
Yeah,
but I think she was in like the Coast Guard or something.
Yeah,
like the Navy,
something like that. Yeah,
I think I remember her in a uniform.
Yeah.
I don't remember who the male lead was.
It was what's his face, the Rocket Raccoon guy. He was in the
Rocket Raccoon guy.
The guy who plays the voice of him. He did the Stars Born. What that guy? What's his name?
Oh, Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper. Yeah, he was the
Bradley Cooper's in that movie.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay. No. I think that movie sucked. I don't remember much else from it, but I mean, honestly, and this was 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, this happened now, there would be riots. Like, or I'd honestly probably just wouldn't get made.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, you hire someone who's part Hawaiian. Well, you can't have that story. Like, I don't remember the storyline being she's like, I don't think they did that. I don't think it was a running gag where like very Hawaiian and or Asian looking people, or mixed people, I should say, were like ripping on her for looking so white. Like, I don't think that was at all part of it.
Right.
I think it was just she's like mentions it in passing, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think like it wasn't, because I could see that being a plot point. Like that happens in all different sorts of cultures.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my uncles used to call me like the Swede when I was a kid because I had long blonde hair when I was really little.
Yeah.
And like I know in like especially some black communities, if you're like really dark or really light, like people will make fun of you, and there's like kind of jabbing and but like ribbing and stuff. But no, I don't think that was like a plot point.
Yeah. Well, cool.
All right.
We brought up Aloha.
Yeah. I feel like they pulled a fast one on Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't fair. They set him up with that Othello question.
Yeah.
You're telling me I can't play I think the ultimate like white guy boomer line. Like, I can't play a black man.
It's funny. It's like, dude, I was totally with you and all that. I was like, yeah, finally, like somebody from the old Hollywood guard is sticking it. And it's like, oh, I don't know
what
that
reminds me of? That reminds me of kind of was there's this movie. I'm not gonna do it any justice. I think it was like a relatively like indie movie or something. It has an actor who's in a lot of stuff. He's like one of those actors that you would totally recognize his face, but like probably wouldn't know him by name. I know he has like one small role in, for instance, The Hangover. He's like the doctor who has like one funny line or something.
Right.
I think he's in Old School. He has like one line. He's like one of those actors. And he has, so it's basically this group of Brooklyn human rights people, and this guy goes kind of viral. He's like a middle-aged white guy. He like goes kind of viral for not getting his voice heard at some, city hall type thing, right? Some borough council meeting or something, and they like want to help him out because he's just like some Joe the plumber type guy, and they do this whole campaign and they're really helping him, and I'm going to ruin this movie, by the way, spoiler alert.
Cool.
So like they do all this work for him and they campaign for him and they finally get him voice, and then he starts like, and they're like, finally when he gets to talk, he like starts ripping on the blacks and Jews and stuff. And he starts like you being super, and they're all like oh my god, it's like holy shit. He's like, and the Jews, and so they're like, oh my god. And that's kind of what this like reminds me of with like Richard Dreyfuss. It's like, and you're telling me I can't play a black man? It's like, oh shit. I don't remember what that movie was, but it was good. It was like shocking in that way. It was very, it was very funny.
Yeah. Oh man.
Right. Next topic.
Yeah.
I like this one. I want to save this one for last.
Real quick. Actually, I do want to touch on something related to the Richard Dreyfuss thing.
Touch me, baby.
Oh, you got it. So there's a CNN panel, and they did. They brought on a couple of people to talk about this, and of course, it's funny. They didn't touch on that part. I thought they were going to touch on like the why can't I play a black man thing. That seems like the thing that I can at least understand people getting upset about. But they were ripping on the other statements that he made. So it was people I didn't know, but one of them said, this just sounds like sour grapes. Like Richard Dreyfuss is bothered that he has to share, and it's like that the woke thing of like other people have to share their resource and their opportunities with others just seems really dumb to me in a way. It's like, yeah, I would definitely encourage people to like share, like if you're in a powerful position to help others, like that's great. But it's like this annoying thing of like, I don't know, like I try to take a more proactive attitude when it comes to like making it as a creative person. It's like, don't, like success is yours to take, not other people's to give. So it's like this entitled attitude of like, well, the reason Richard Dreyfuss is upset about this is because he's being asked to share.
Like share what?
Yeah,
like
share screen time.
First of all, when was the last time? What was the last movie Richard Dreyfuss was even in?
Piranha 3D.
Like, is that a joke or
no?
He was in that.
Yeah. He was at the very beginning. He basically reprises his character from Jaws at the very beginning, and then he gets eaten by a bunch of piranhas.
Have you ever seen the movie? What's it called? It's like something from Yonkers.
Sounds familiar, but I don't think I've
Story
seen it,
from Yonkers. It was this movie where like my parents again, I'm talking about my parents telling me I love stuff. Like, oh, you'll love this movie. I was like, fine, I'll watch it, whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's actually really good.
You should listen to my mommy and daddy more. I'll go to San Antonio.
I like watched it with him. I was like, okay, it's good.
Yeah,
but he's in it, I think.
Okay.
That's why I brought that up. But it was like a movie I don't think a lot of people know about.
Okay.
It's like this, I think it's like German, I think they're Jewish, like German Jewish family owns a candy shop, and one of the daughters is like much older, and she might have a developmental disability. I don't remember exactly,
right.
But just like kind of a family drama. I think he's the oldest brother maybe or something, but he's Jewish, right? Dreyfuss is famously Jewish name, actually, if you know French history, like I do.
I don't even know that the French exist, so
well, you're missing out. The French are great. But yeah, so
yeah, I was getting back to that concept of sharing, and it's like
sharing, like sharing what? I don't. Again, this is one of those areas where it's like, what besides like, and I don't just want to focus on like black here, because this is like all like DEI is about all types of stuff.
Yeah.
We were talking about the Cleopatra thing, but it's all types of gender and race and religion and all this stuff. It's like, what has a better representation than fucking Hollywood?
Right.
But like what has done a better, like there are movies about tons of stuff, like all different types of stuff getting nominated, past winners, and it's not like winners, and some of the biggest blockbusters and some of the biggest indie films. You had Moonlight and Black Panther and Everything Everywhere All at Once, just one, and that had like a mostly Asian cast. And like what are we talking about? Like, why do we need any of this?
Right.
Hashtag Oscar so cringe and gay.
Yeah, seriously, we should make that trend next year.
like I never got this. It's like I always say, it's like you don't need like we need more equity in the NBA.
Exactly.
It's like, what are we talking about? This is like movies, music. This is where it's been like besides food, like restaurants.
Yeah.
Like what other areas do other cultures outside of like mainstream white Protestant culture do minorities do the best in? It's shit like this. It's art and it's cuisine.
Yeah. But still, Richard Dreyfuss has to share. He's the one who's holding everybody back. Sour grapes.
It's never enough. And that brings us into our next topic, because Dee Snider, I think, is like pretty. What are you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say, so the Dee Snider thing is actually in response to something else I want to talk about, is the Paul Stanley thing from Kiss.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the reason why Dee Snider got in trouble is because he was supporting Paul Stanley's statement.
Who's Paul? Paul Stanley's in Kiss?
Yeah, he's the
which one is he?
Rhythm guitarist. I think he's the one that's got a star on his face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so sometime last week, I think it was, Paul Stanley tweeted some fairly reasonable, measured thoughts on transgenderism, in particular with regards to kids. And I'll read a statement here. There is a big difference between teaching acceptance and normalizing and even encouraging participation in a lifestyle that confuses young children into questioning their sexual identification as though some sort of game, and then parents in some cases allow it. There are individuals who, as adults, may decide reassignment is their needed choice, but turning this into a game or parents normalizing it as some sort of natural alternative, or believing that because a little boy likes to play dress up in his sister's clothes or a girl in her brother's, we should lead them steps further down a path that's far from innocence of what they're doing. With many children who have no real sense of sexuality or sexual experiences caught up in the fun of using pronouns and saying what they identify as, some adults mistakenly confuse teaching acceptance with normalizing and encouraging a situation that has been a struggle for those truly affected and have turned it into a sad and dangerous fad. I mean, I think he's kind of right. Like he's where it's like, parents like, oh, like my little girl's a tomboy.
He's kind of right. He's 100% right.
Yeah.
I mean, the parents, like there's a contingent out there that are like honestly sick.
Yeah.
Who do this as like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Like they're living. It's kind of like when the dad is living like through his child's little league.
Yeah.
That could have traumatic effects, or living, the glory. Like some parents do this with their children, where it's like they get to have the most points at the wine and book club because they have 2 trans kids.
Right.
And like this is disturbing. Like it's one thing for kids to have imaginations and to let them, dress a certain way or act or even call themselves by a certain thing that they can grow out of or not. If they start calling themselves Stan at 8 and they want to still call themselves Stan at 22, like fine.
Yeah.
But like, I think that this is more about like surgeries and medications that can have lasting horrific effects.
Yes.
Children, like we have the, like everyone's different, but we have these legal standards for a reason at 18. Right. The brain isn't even fully developed, like well into your 20s.
Yeah.
I think that argument. So I think there should be some other arguments made for other sorts of punishments and things like the military and all that kind of stuff. But that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But like, and honestly, what he's saying is like very, very democratically popular. Yeah. As in like Democrat, as in like small d Democrat.
Yeah.
Like
it's shared by most people.
Not like a 51%, like overwhelming majorities of Americans would hear that and go, yeah, no shit. Like,
exactly.
What are you even talking about? What's
and there's also
on?
Something he's also, I think, expressing, compassion for genuine trans people, because he's saying like, hey, look, there are people who have suffered a big chunk of their lives with, body dysmorphia or whatever. Like, don't just let's stop conflating kids being confused with people who are actually suffering and who are, undergoing certain conditions. Like, let's try to keep these things separate. Yeah, I mean, he's and it is kind of funny that he spent so much of his career wearing makeup and high heels and shit, and he's talking about the trans thing, and so of course he got a ton of shit. He didn't really walk back the statements, but he didn't really apologize really, but he said he followed up a little bit afterwards. While my thoughts were clear, my words clearly were not. Most importantly, and above all else, I support those struggling with their sexual identity while enduring constant hostility and those whose path leads them to reassignment surgery. It's hard to fathom the kind of conviction that one must feel to take those steps. A paragraph or two will remain far too short to fully convey my thoughts or point of view, so I will leave that for another time and place. I'm glad that he didn't fully take back.
Wait, was this Stanley or Snider? This is Stanley.
This is still Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
But then Dee Snider got in trouble because he showed support for that for Paul Stanley's remark. And so it's funny because Dee Snider is from Twisted Sister, and they were spent a good chunk of the 80s wearing women's clothing,
and makeup and long hair. Like it's very, very funny.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and go ahead.
He expressed support for Paul Stanley's tweet, and then he got disinvited from the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade.
That's like the Super Bowl of gay pride parades too.
Yeah.
Like, that's the gayest one.
Yeah. And so he shared a statement. I won't read the whole thing. It's kind of long, but I'll just read a few parts of it. But we on the Facebook thing, it says, so I hear I'm a transphobic. Really? So why did the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade invite me, Dee Snider, to be a grand marshal in the parade and sing "We're Not Going to Take It" on the center stage at what could possibly be the most important LGBTQIA plus gathering in the organization's long history?
That fucking acronym just keeps getting longer.
I know. To quote Joe Garza, San Francisco Chronicle's senior political writer, Dee Snider is a longtime supporter of LGBTQ rights. I have always stood with the community and its most in its important causes. I was honored to accept the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade's invitation. So blah blah blah. I even gave my blessing for "We're Not Going to Take It" to be used as this year's battle cry for queer not going to take it.
I see what they did there.
Yeah. Is that transphobic? I was not aware that the transgender community expects fealty and total agreement with all of their beliefs, and any variation or deviation is considered transphobic. And so he's always been really good about kind of like, threading the needle of like, he's just for like a heavy metal singer, he's surprisingly like nuanced and thoughtful, and he's got kind of a history.
Wasn't he a big, like, during the 90s, like, free speech advocate when it was a lot of the right wing who was coming after art, and it was like him and Frank Zappa, right?
That was in the 80s during the parents'
80s.
Music.
Yeah, it was the 80s, right? Yeah, Tipper Gore, who she wasn't right wing, right? But there's also like a Democrat version of it too.
Yeah, it was a bunch of bored politicians' housewives, and I think it was nonpartisan or bipartisan. It was, and even then Al Gore, like, even though he's a Democrat, like he was very centrist, very moderate.
Like he was like a Clintonian Democrat, like and like neolib. I just remember he's always been good, but he was I thought he came out recently like very anti some Republican stuff, but I mean this just
Dee Snider. Sometimes he kind of ventures into woke territory, but at the end of the day, he's still very free speech. So he's still like, hey, look, I'll read his closing lines here.
Yeah, go ahead.
The transgender community needs moderates who support their choices, even if we don't agree with every one of their edicts. For some transgender people, not all, to accuse supporters like me of transphobia is not a good look for their cause. Don't reject people who are willing to march, sing, and stand with you just because we don't perfectly see eye to eye. We are still your allies. I, Dee Snider, will continue to support the transgender community and their right to choose, even if they reject me. And moving forward, I'm open to educating myself so I can be a better ally. I wouldn't get rid of that. Sincerely, Dee Snider, your cisgender cross-dressing ally. But I mean, besides some of the woke language there, it's like I agree with that statement though of like, yeah, you should be willing to like, let people into your movement, even if they don't fully agree with you on everything. It's like, well, we care a lot about big picture stuff. That's good enough. Yeah, but instead, like, they're doing like this sort of Mean Girls clique thing.
Yeah, I mean, but I agree with him, and I think this article is saying like the 71-year-old rocker made his comments as politicians in several states have attempted to restrict trans Americans' ability to seek gender affirming medical treatments. In some states, such as Georgia and Tennessee, bans for minors have already been enacted in the first quarter. I'm like, yeah, is that like a bad thing?
All right. Yeah.
Can you get a tattoo as a minor?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like maybe at 16 with parental consent. Like,
right.
Like what?
Yeah,
what are we doing?
Right.
Like that. If you want to turn 18, do whatever you want. Fine. Like again, they say here not like what pronouns you want to use. Medical treatments, gender affirming medical treatments.
Yeah.
Like what? And I think they mean that as in like he's not. Like he's saying all this about kind of like, woe is me, I'm being canceled when these states are passing these things. Like, yeah, a lot of people like these bans.
Yeah.
These are good.
Yeah.
And if you want to fuck your life up when you're an adult, fine. That's what America's all about.
Right.
But we should try and protect children somewhat. We already let them get like blown away in schools with assault weapons, and they can go fight in wars. And well, no, they can't. I guess they can't do that. No. But we let them go hungry and you know, all this other shit and just be intoxicated by social media and have their self-esteem destroyed. When we pump them full of hormones too, or have them get their penis turned into a vagina and or have them like never be able to experience an orgasm or have children or breastfeed or any of this other shit. Like Jesus Christ, we are such a fucked up society. Like, and it's so crazy to me.
And it's weird that you know, the radical activists who are pushing this on young people, on children, it's weird that they're trying to make puberty out to be a medical condition that needs to be cured, where it's like I've seen so many of this where so much messaging around this where it's like, you know, puberty is a very difficult, confusing time, and not everybody should have to go through it. And, you know, like there are some things that it's like, yeah, actually it's confusing and weird and for everybody. And it should be, because that's a time when you're growing. Yeah. So like, don't delay that. Like, don't. Being an adolescent is confusing and weird. Yeah. And you learn from it. Like, like it's part of the process. And like, while there can be therapy, like talk therapy, and there can be support groups, and, you know, like there can be different sorts of acceptance, and that's always going to change in terms of what you want to call yourself and pronouns. And, you know, that's already a mess, because then it's like, well, the kid is being called something at school that his parents don't know, or her parents don't know. And I don't know. And I think people in power need to not give into a lot of this shit, especially with like pronouns, and like a lot of it doesn't make any sense. But you know, can we please like protect kids somewhat? Can we do something to not completely fuck them up before they turn 18? And also, and here I feel like I would like to know who made these decisions to literally cancel him, because I don't know if it's like the trans community. I think it's like the attack helicopters, the activists, who probably are in a lot of positions of power because they're the most ardent. That's oftentimes how it happens. But I think a lot of trans people just like are actually on board with him. Like I don't know. I don't think it's a lot. I don't know. I honestly don't. Unfortunately, it's the vocal minorities of a already like tiny minority who control the discourse for like huge swaths of the country. And I don't mean that as in like again, his views are totally reasonable and held by an overwhelming majority of the country. But the discourse makes it seem like, because these people are scary, because they do things like, well, try and get you fired or call you a bigot, or you know, in some states like states like Washington, you know, it's like parents can lose custody of their kids and shit. Or, you know, unfortunately, about half of marriages end in divorce, and a lot of those marriages have kids. And then it's like, if the one parent is way more accepting of the gender dysphoria than the other, like they'll get more custody or something. So it can like tear families apart. And you know, and these psychopaths, these attack helicopters, are the ones who are running the discourse, and they push so much of this bullshit into the Overton window. I'm glad he didn't buckle though. I'm glad that I hope that he takes his song back from them too.
Oh yeah, I assumed he did. No,
I don't know the update on that. But
I assumed. I think if they canceled him, I don't think they're gonna play it. You can't do that. That's bullshit. One or the other.
I know exactly. Queer not. It's someone like, go ahead, use their song, put queer in it. That's fine. And it's like, oh, you don't support us enough. It's like, all right, well, I'm taking my song with me then. So,
but then here, so then of course they bring up. So hold on, I just want to say, so then it's like last month. Like, why do they throw this in here? Last month, outspoken conservative rocker Ted Nugent shared a tweet in which he denounced the existence of transgender people and told people they could debate him if they disagreed. Like, what does that have to do with anything?
I guess maybe just trying to make it seem like rock stars or crazy bigots or something, or they're all
like, I also disagree with Ted Nugent there. Ted Nugent is like a huge conservative and can be a douche, but like, what does that have to do with this story at all? I think it's just like it's like, why are you equate like Dee Snider and Ted Nugent are like, just because they both play guitar and sing? Like, what do they have to do with each other?
Right. Yeah, maybe I guess it's just, you know, rock stars talking about transgenderism, so it's like, yeah, let's try it. Or, you know, it's probably like the SEO thing. It's probably just like, hey, let's, you know, Ted Nugent said something recently. Let's get some, you know, some views from that.
I give these guys a lot of credit though, because look, they're like multi-millionaires, right? I would think Paul Stanley more than Dee Snider.
Yeah,
I mean, Kiss was extremely popular, like I think way more than Twisted Sister, right?
And also just all the merchandise. Like, they were the first bands who were like, hey, put us on lunch boxes and condoms and caskets and shit.
Condoms, that's pretty sweet, bro.
Yeah.
I actually, Kiss is one of those bands that like I never really like even sought out. The thing with me, a lot of bands, I know them for their really famous songs, and I oftentimes don't like those songs because I'm like a hipster or whatever, like it's lame. But then when I actually listen to some of their other songs, I'm like, oh wait, like this is like even Iron Maiden, like my favorite band.
Yeah.
I don't like Run to the Hills.
Yeah.
I don't like 666, like the number of the beast. Like I actually don't even have this on my Spotify list. But like I love a lot of their other songs. Like Kiss, I love Strutter. I think Strutter's an awesome song. Yeah. Detroit Rock City, that scene in season, was that 4 of Stranger Things that just came out? Or was it 5? Like they used that song in a scene, and it was like my favorite scene of the whole season.
Right.
I'm like, that song's awesome, Detroit Rock City. But
yeah, I hate when like radio stations, like they'll play like the same 3 hits from a band. It's like, you know, Led Zeppelin had like 20 hits, and you guys keep playing Stairway to Heaven. Like, why? Nice.
I always wondered that. I'm like, so before. Like I really remember I had a girlfriend in Connecticut and I was in New Jersey. We were like college girlfriends. So I would drive up there and I just like listened to the radio because I didn't even have like, man, some CDs or something. But I didn't have Spotify.
Right.
I didn't have like, and I would just hear the same songs over and over. And I was wondering, I'm like, is that just like a licensing thing for them to save money? Because like I probably heard Come Sail Away by Styx like 900,000 times.
Yeah.
And I like the song, but like why are they playing it so much when there's all this music out there?
Yeah.
I don't know last time I listened to the radio though.
It's really lazy programming, I guess. I don't know. Well, you know, I mean, like sometimes radio stations will like, so for example, like back in the Bay Area, there was a radio show where they at 7 o'clock they would do a Led Zeppelin thing, but it's like, we're gonna play deep cuts, we're gonna play B-sides, we're gonna play.
Did they call it? Hold on, did they call it "Get the Let Out"?
They did,
yeah. I think I think everyone had that like a "Get the Let Out" hour of just Led Zeppelin. Did you know though? I learned somewhat recently that like some radio stations are actually not where you think they are, and they're like not local at all.
Oh, really?
And like, did this radio station, you say the Bay Area? Yeah. Do they like say Bay Area specific things?
Yeah.
Okay. Because there were some, like I learned this, that like they purposefully would not talk about like specific things and like in certain areas, so that you just assumed that because you're listening to them, they were like in your area.
Right.
And I thought that was really like trippy and kind of made me angry.
Yeah, that's interesting. It reminds me a little bit of like Top Gun, where like they didn't show what the enemy country was. Like they never said.
Yeah. I always loved that in Top Gun. Top Gun Maverick was a real like a great movie.
Yeah.
But, like we just went and fucking bombed this country.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like we just committed an act of war in this movie. Did you see Top Gun Maverick?
Yeah.
So in Top Gun, it was like the one movie you saw from this year. Last year. But do you remember like their mission? It wasn't like they're attacking us, we need to defend our, like we went and we bombed a sovereign nation.
Yeah, exactly.
If we did that today, that's an act of war. Like we're at war with that country. And in the movie, we're totally not at war with them. It's not like there's a war going on.
Yeah.
And I love this. It's like, America, fuck yeah. It's like the mission is to go and bomb this thing that we think is this. It's like, done. We got it.
Just give me 3 weeks. I'll do it.
Yeah. Like that is so fucking insane.
Yeah.
And I kind of love it. But like, we can't just do that now. I mean, we kind of can. Like, we can now, but with drones.
Yeah.
Like, we did that. We bombed that Iranian general a few years ago. It was like annihilated him. It's like, oh, what the fuck? What are we doing?
Yeah.
But like, we just own sovereign country. It's just like they're like flying off into the sunset. What is happening?
Right, and if I remember correctly, like
every time I close my eyes,
it wasn't even like, oh,
we got an act of war.
We got plans. We got word that they're planning to blow up the White House with this, so we got to get to them before they get to us. They're just sort of like, yeah, they're holding weapons over there, maybe. So let's go blow it up.
Was that the rationale?
Something like it was like I think it was just like they're in possession of nuclear crap or something. It wasn't even like they pose a threat to us. Like,
they have weapons of mass destruction. Done. We got them. It's like no, we all live in a bunch of snow caves. Like we have old as shit planes. I mean, it's obviously just supposed to be like at least in Crimson Tide, I watched somewhat recently, like 6 months ago or so.
Yeah.
It's like it's Russia, but it's like a rogue group within Russia takes over like a nuclear submarine or something like that.
Right.
So it's not like we're just attacking Russia
because we don't.
We're actually kind of helping Russia in a way.
Wow.
All right.
All right. Cool. It's always a good podcast when we end on Crimson Tide. I think that's
it's a good movie. Crimson Tide's a good movie.
I haven't seen it. Oh, but I know that Tarantino did a rewrite, an uncredited rewrite on that movie.
Really?
So is that the one that has Denzel Washington in it?
Yeah, it's Denzel.
Yeah,
it's Denzel.
So there's
not Dustin Hoffman.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah, Gene Hackman.
So like I'd heard that, but I'd never seen the movie, so I never really. So I don't know to like what extent he did a rewrite on that. But somebody shared a clip of a scene that you probably remember better, but it was like some subordinate is complaining to Denzel Washington's character because he and another officer, they got into a fight about which artist drew Silver Surfer, the Marvel Comics character, which artist drew him better. And then it goes into kind of a long thing. It's like, okay, that's Tarantino. Like force in a pop culture reference from the 60s.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, there's a whole. Wait, is that the movie I'm thinking that a Silver Surfer reference in it recently, or just something else? Why aren't you reading my mind right now? I guess it was.
It's pretty fucked up in there. Yeah.
Maybe is that a Linklater movie?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Crimson Tide.
No, not Crimson Tide. I know that's not Linklater. Oh. Anyway, but yeah, good movie. You should see it.
Yeah,
very good movie.
Yeah. Tarantino did it, so it's one of Tarantino's best.
His new movie, he's got something in the works, right?
Yeah, the film critic or something. The movie critic.
Yeah. We'll see that.
Yeah, should be fun.
All right.
All right, man. We'll fight the crits and stay reckless.
Stay reckless. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too.